Welcome to our fifth session. In this session, we'll discuss security, access control, and cost management in Azure. Specifically, in the first lesson, we will cover Microsoft Entra ID, authentication methods, and security models. In the second lesson, focused on cost management, we will explore cost calculators and pricing, and conclude this session with the cost management and tags. Let's begin with authentication and security methods, my favorite topic. Security has become a very relevant subject in recent years. And during the COVID-19 period, the number of cyber attacks in some countries has more than doubled. We'll start our learning in this session with Microsoft Entra ID. Microsoft Entra ID, previously known as Azure Active Directory, is a cloud service for managing identities and access. This service helps your employees access external resources, such as Microsoft 365, Azure Portal, and thousands of other SaaS applications. Microsoft Entra ID also grants access to internal resources, like applications on your corporate intranet, as well as any cloud applications developed for your organization. Microsoft Entra ID is a cloud-based identity and access management service for Microsoft. With Microsoft Entra ID, you manage the identity credentials, but Microsoft ensures the global availability of this service. If you have worked with Active Directory, currently known as Microsoft Entra Domain Services, Microsoft Entra ID will be familiar to you. When you connect to Microsoft Entra ID, Microsoft protects you by detecting suspicious login attempts at no additional cost. For example, Microsoft Entra ID can detect login attempts from unexpected location or unknown devices. After selecting a Microsoft Entra ID license, you will gain access to all or some of the features for your organization, which you can see on the slide: authentication, self-service password reset, multi-factor authentication, business-to-business B2B, application, and device management. We will discuss these features in more details in this session. Similar to how Microsoft Entra ID lets you use directory services without needing extra setup, Microsoft Entra Domain Services offers domain benefits in the cloud without the complexity of setting up and managing domain controllers. Known as Microsoft Entra DS, it handles tasks like joining domains and applying group rules. This is useful for running older cloud apps that can't use modern logins or to avoid changing settings often. You can move these older apps to the managed domains, avoiding the need for complex management. It works with your Microsoft Entra ID, allowing users to use their credentials for logging in, and you can still use existing accounts and groups for security when accessing resources. This helps make moving from on-premises to Azure smoother. Next, we will talk about Microsoft Entra ID's features, starting with authentication. Authentication is like presenting identification during travel, for example, at the airport check-in counter. It doesn't confirm the presence of a travel document. It simply confirms that you are who you claim to be. Azure supports several authentication methods, including standard password, single sign-on, SSO, multi-factor authentication, MFA, and passwordless authentication. While authorization influences the level of access granted to the authenticated entity, it also defines what data they can access and what actions they can perform. In our airport example, it will be like checking your boarding pass to determine where exactly you can sit on the plane. Another important feature of Microsoft Entra ID is multi-factor authentication. Remember how you log into websites, emails, or online services. Have you ever entered a code sent to your phone after entering your username and password? If so, you have used multi-factor authentication, MFA, for login. MFA is the process of requesting additional data or an additional authentication factor or verification from the user during login. MFA helps protect against password compromise. MFA provides extra credential security by requiring 2 or more elements for authentication. These elements fall into the following categories. Something you know, this could be a complex question. Something you have, this could be a code sent to your mobile phone, or something you are. Usually some biometric characteristic, such as a fingerprint or a facial image. Let's move now to the external identities. Surely, you have worked with various companies that required access to your resources. To secure this access, we have external identities. An external identity refers to users, devices, services, etc. that are outside of your organization. Microsoft Entra ID external identities encompass all the ways you can securely interact with users outside your organization. If you want to collaborate with partners, distributors, suppliers, or vendors, you can grant them access to your resources and determine how your internal users can access external organizations. If you are a developer creating consumer-facing applications, you can manage your customers' use of credentials. External identities can look similar to single sign-on. With external identities, external users can use their own credentials. If they have a digital identity issued by a corporation or government entity, or unmanaged social identities such as a Google or Facebook, they are able to use their own credential for signing in. Using the Microsoft Entra ID B2B or business-to-business feature, you can easily enable collaboration within your organization. Administrators or other users can invite guest users from other customers. This feature also applies to social identities, such as Microsoft accounts. As we have a B2B offer, Microsoft also provides a B2C. External Identities B2C provides a service for corporate identity management for customers. Your customers will have the ability to log in to your applications and APIs using selected social, enterprise, or local account credentials. Microsoft Entra ID B2C is a customer identity and access management solution capable of serving millions of users and handling billions of authentication checks daily. This solution takes care of scaling and securing the authentication platform, monitoring, and automatically responding to various threats such as a denial of service attacks and password spraying. B2C is a separate service in Microsoft Entra ID. It is based on the same technology as Microsoft Entra ID, but serves a different purpose, allowing you to build applications for customers, and then let all users register for these applications without restrictions on user accounts. Another important feature of Microsoft Entra ID is a conditional access. Conditional access also provides more granular multi-factor authentication for users. For example, users may not need to provide a second factor authentication if they are in a known location. However, if login signals are unusual or the user is in an unknown location, they may be prompted for a second factor. When signing in, conditional access collects signals from the user, makes decisions based on those signals, and then applies that decision to allow or block access or require multi-factor authentication. Managing access to cloud resources is a crucial function for any organization using the cloud. Role-based access control in Azure, Azure RBAC, allows you to manage user access to Azure resources, including configuring permissions for performing operations on those resources and defining access scopes. In a multi-team cloud environment, the principle of least privilege ensures access is granted only at the necessary level. For instance, if you require read-only access to a specific blob in storage, then only read access should be provided for that particular object. Write access should not be granted for that object, and read access should also not extend to other blobs in storage. This guideline offers a significant security recommendation. Azure RBAC includes over 70 built-in roles, can be assigned in different scopes, and allows you to create your own customer roles. Each role has a set of access permissions associated with it. There are 4 fundamental Azure roles: owner, contributor, reader, and user access administrator. The owner role wields complete control over resources. Owners can manage access, modify resources, and even delegate access to others. The contributor role maintains the ability to create and manage resources, excluding access management. The reader role possesses the privilege to view existing resources but not modify or create new ones. The user access administrator role specializes in managing user access to Azure resources, making it an indispensable role for access management tasks. With understanding of these fundamental roles, you will navigate the Azure RBAC landscape with clarity and ensure precise access controls for your resources. When it's come to safeguarding your data across various levels, the concept of defense in depth takes center stage. Securing data, your dedication aligns with ensuring its protection as well. Let's turn our attention to the chart displayed, which illustrates the layers of protection. Each layer contributes to defense. Even if one layer is compromised, the subsequent layer acts as an additional barrier against further breach. Turning our focus to the individual layers, we start with the physical security level. This level is all about ensuring secure access to buildings. At Microsoft data centers, multiple security checkpoints and identity verifications are required for entry. This level is exclusively dedicated to physical security measures. Transitioning to the identity level, the focus shifts to controlling access to the infrastructure. This level ensures that access is granted only to those who truly need it. Moving on to the perimeter level, the primary objective is to prevent unauthorized users or services from gaining access to the network. This layer serves as a frontline defense against threats like distributed denial of service (DDoS) attacks. At this level, alerts are triggered, enabling the monitoring of potential attacks. Moving to the network level, the primary concern is the isolation of resource access. This ensures that if an attack occurs, its spread to other services is contained. At the compute level, protective measures involve securing your environment by closing specific ports. Comprehensive protection and necessary control are pivotal at this stage. The application-level security requires integrating security into development projects, ensuring that applications are inherently secure by design. Finally, we arrive at the data layer. Despite the contribution of the other layers, responsible data access holds immense significance. This final layer ensures that those with authorized access adhere to data protection standards. Data layer security includes controls to manage access to businesses and customers' data and encryption to protect data. The Microsoft approach to defense in depth, demonstrated through this multi-layered strategy, fortifies its assets. By embracing this approach, you too can effectively secure your resources and data. This layered methodology effectively combats a wide range of potential threats and should be a cornerstone of your security strategy as well. Zero Trust is a security model that assumes the worst-case scenarios and protects resources accordingly. The Zero Trust model starts with the assumption of a breach, and every request is checked as if it were coming from an untrusted network. Today, organization needs a new security model that effectively adapts to the complexities of the modern environment, supports workforce mobility, and protects people, devices, applications, and data wherever they are. To address the challenges of the new world of computing, Microsoft strongly recommends using the Zero Trust security model, which is based on the three guiding principles. First, verify explicitly. Always authenticate and authorize based on all available data points. Secondly, use least privilege access. Limit user access with the just-in-time and just-enough access, risk-based adaptive policies, and data protection to protect both data and productivity. And finally, assume breach. Segment access by network, user, devices, and application. Use encryption to protect data. And use analytics to get visibility, detect threats, and improve your security. Furthermore, we possess a strong tool aligned with this model, known as Microsoft Defender for Cloud. Microsoft Defender for Cloud is a monitoring tool that manages security posture and provides threat protections. It monitors cloud, on-premises, hybrid, and multi-cloud environments and offers recommendations and alerts to strengthen your security. Defender for Cloud provides the necessary tools to protect resources, control security state, defend against cyber threats, and optimize security management. Deploying Defender for Cloud is straightforward as it natively integrates into Azure. Defender for Cloud continually tracks new resources deployed for your workloads. It assesses whether new resources are configured in accordance with security best practices. If not, they're flagged, and you receive a prioritized list of recommendations on what needs to be fixed. These recommendations help reduce the likelihood of attacks on each of your resources. The list of recommendations is aligned with and maintained by the Azure Security Benchmark. The Security Benchmark provides guidelines with security and compliance recommendations for Azure, prepared by Microsoft based on widely accepted compliance frameworks. In this way, Defender for Cloud not only enables you to configure security policies, but also applies security configuration standards to your resources. Now, let's move on to a very important topic: how to manage your finances and maximize saving with Azure. The cost of Azure resources is influenced by several factors. Let's discuss 6 important factors. The first factor is the type of resources. When you provision an Azure resource, Azure creates metered instances for that resource. The meters track the resources usage and generate a usage record that is used to calculate your bill. The second factor is consumption. As we mentioned in our first session, the pay-as-you-go model is the cloud payment approach where you are billed for the resources utilized during the billing cycle. If you consume more compute resources in this cycle, your payment will be higher. If your usage is lower in the current cycle, your payment will be reduced. It's a straightforward pricing mechanism that offers maximum flexibility, as we previously discussed. As mentioned earlier, you're only charged for what you actually use. This direct pricing mechanism provides maximum flexibility. However, Azure also allows you to continuously use a specific fixed amount of cloud resources and receive discounts on these reserved resources. Many services, including databases, compute resources, and storage, offer the ability to set a fixed level of usage and receive discounts. In some cases, discounts can reach up to 72%. When you reserve capacity, you define a fixed amount of Azure resources usage and payment for a specific period. Usually it's 1 or 3 years. Using reserved capacity allows significant saving when using stable or predictable workloads, while still having the flexibility to increase cloud resources as needed. The third factor is maintenance. The flexible capabilities of the cloud allow you to quickly adjust resources on demand. Monitoring in Azure helps you preserve financial resources by providing various recommendations, such as shutting down underutilized virtual machines. By tracking resources and not retaining resources that are no longer needed, you can effectively control cloud costs. The first factor that affects cost is the geography and placement of your resources. When provisioning most resources in Azure, you need to specify the region where the resources will be deployed. Azure infrastructure is distributed globally, allowing you to deploy services centrally or as close as possible to where your customers use them. Such global deployment results in global price differences. The cost of electricity, labor, taxes, and fees varies depending on the location. Due to such cost variation, the deployment cost of Azure resources may differ depending on the region. Network traffic, our fifth factor, also depends on geographical location. For example, data movement within Europe incurs lower cost than data movement from Europe to Asia or South America. Billing zones are a factor that determines the cost of some Azure services. Bandwidth refers to data movement to and from Azure data centers. The fifth factor is network traffic. In some cases, inbound data transfer is provided at no cost. Charges for outbound data transfer depends on billing zones. And finally, the sixth factor is subscription. Some types of Azure subscription also include usage quotas that affect costs. For example, the free Azure trial subscription provides access to a range of Azure products for free for 12 months. It also includes credit for expenses during the first 30 days from the registration date. You get access to over 25 products that are always provided for free. Now that we have examined the dynamics of resource placement and network traffic cost, let's shift our focus to the Azure Marketplace platform that extends your Azure experience by offering solutions and services from third-party providers. This can include servers with pre-installed and configured software, devices with managed network firewalls, or connectors for third-party backup services. When you purchase products through the Azure Marketplace, you may pay not only for Azure services you use, but also for the third-party provider services. In this case, the billing structure are determined by the provider. All solutions available in the Azure Marketplace are certified and comply with Azure policies and standards. Certification policies may vary depending on the type of service or solution, as well as the Azure service. Emerging from the Azure Marketplace insights, let's now turn our focus to the pricing calculator, an available tool in comprehending potential Azure expenditures. This calculator is freely available online and allows you to estimate the approximate hourly and monthly cost of using Azure. The pricing calculator is designed to provide an estimated cost of provisioning resources in Azure. You can pre-assess the cost of individual resources, build a solution, or use a sample scenario to view Azure cost estimates. The main focus of the pricing calculator is on the cost of provisioned resources in Azure. With the pricing calculator, you can evaluate the cost of all provisioned resources, including compute resources, storage, and associated networking expenses. You can even consider various storage options, such as storage type, access tier, and redundancy. To better understand how the pricing calculator works, let's take a look at it in the browser. In this demo, we'll review together Azure pricing calculator that helps us estimate our hourly or monthly cost for using Azure. It's a public website that you can also access via the provided URL, or you can just Bing it and find it on internet. If I want to save my cost estimates, I will need to log in inside. I will not log in, I will just show you how I can review cost inside. But for your information, if you need to save your progress, please log in while you're using it. Let's add some virtual machine. Let's add some storage account. It's very simple. You just need to select the elements. You have different filters on the left, or you can just select the most used services here. And after that, to review. So we have now one VM, we have one storage account. And after that, we can decide where the storage account is based. So if we will change the region, the price will be modified. So now we have $2 here. Let's say we are moving to UK South from East US, and directly we have different price that it's visible. Also, if we move to our example with North Europe that I used before, and we look on the price. The price is again different from the previous one. So what we can do as well, we can select the type, we can select the performance. The performance will also impact the price. You see also it's much higher, let's say, price. The difference is very, very visible. And we can also select the storage account type and review how it changes the price, access tiers. Here we have archives, but if you move to hot, we'll have different pricing. For sure, when we're moving to archives, the price is very low, but we'll pay a lot for registration if you'll need one. But if you come to hot, also the price will increase. So it's a very flexible tool. You see, I can modify every setting for my storage and see how the price is different. I was in LRS, GZRS also impact my price. But it's very interesting here. Let's say we'll put a bit more storage. And now I am on $126. I have an option that is called saving options, where I can decide if I want to use reserved instances. So I can reserve this resource for 1 or 3 years. And let's see what's happened. I have $126. If I reserve my storage account for 1 year, and I want to decide if I then paid it on front, it will impact, and we will see the average price per month directly. It's absolutely different. The same, I can decide if I reserve it for 3 years. So we see that the amount decreased again. The same with the operational data transfer. According to the number of operation, we have a different pricing. And also, sometimes the pricing for specific characteristic will be not available for the region. So if I want, I can switch to another region. It's absolutely normal. Some regions, they have more opportunities and more information. Some have less. But please be aware that here you can review your upfront cost and your monthly cost if you will reserve some instances. So if I go with pay as I go, I can review again. The price will be different. I have now 0 upfront costs. And after that we have our VMs. If I select, for example, our North Europe, I will select Windows. I can also modify our tiers. I will go for standard. Basic will be always less expensive one. I have $13. If I go for standard, I have $14. So the price is again changed. And after that, if I would like to, I can decide something related to my memory. Like I want 56 GB of RAM. Again, the price is higher. And as well, if I want to go to Linux, for sure the price will be less expensive, as we can see here. And again, you can use reserved instances for 1 year, as you can use reserved instances for 3 years, and you can select the plan that you would like to use. Pay attention that some option is not available for specific instance. So if I want, for example, to come back to Windows, I can also decide if I want, for example, to use already the license included or no, and everything will modify my price. And I have also the information about the disk, so more space I take, more I pay. It's visible quite here. And as well, we can scroll the full page by selecting the characteristics, and after that, at the end, we can decide if we want to save it. If you're logging in the platform, we can save it, or we can export it in Excel. And now let's see if I make my export and I open my file. We can review everything that we selected here with the pricing and use this document for our financial department and for our budgeting. So I hope you enjoyed this demonstration, and now you know how the cost is impacted in Azure. Thank you for your attention, and let's come back to our presentation. Having explored the pricing calculator, let's now transition our focus to the total cost of ownership TCO calculator. It's an essential tool for comparing the financial landscape of on-premises infrastructure against Azure cloud infrastructure. Using the TCO calculator, you input your current infrastructure configuration, including servers, databases, storage, and outbound network traffic. The TCO calculator then compares the expected cost for your current environment with the Azure environment that meets the same infrastructure requirements. In the TCO calculator, you input your configuration and assumptions such as electricity cost and IT labor expenses, and you will receive an estimate of the cost differences for running the same environment in your current data center or in Azure. Let's now return to the browser and explore the total cost of ownership calculator. Welcome to our demo. We'll see together how to use total cost of ownership calculator. Here we can estimate the cost of our savings. It's also accessible in the public access on the internet, so you can also use it to estimate your cost. It's a free tool. Inside, first of all, we'll need to define our workload, so our current on-premises workload. Please try to be as most precise as possible. Why? Because more details you provide, more clear comparison you will have. So you will need to provide some information about servers. You can also name your workloads. You can add the second one. You can specify how many gigabytes you're using. You can add different databases, name it correctly. Also provide the space, the different information about their location, operations that you're doing inside, destinations, and etc. Also, after you provided all information about your databases, you will need to provide the info about your storage account. So what is the capacity that you need, what are different types of disks that you're using currently, as well as networking. And after you provided all this information, for example, our destination region, let's say Canada, we will need to adjust our assumptions. When I'm saying adjusted our assumptions, so first of all, select the currency. You can keep it in dollars or you can switch in euro. That it's my current case because I'm based in France. We can also decide if we need also software insurance coverage provides Azure hybrid benefits. Also, if you'd like to have sheer redundant storage, we can activate it here, and etc. So we provide some extra assumptions about hardware cost, software cost, electricity, and etc. Again, more precise you are, more clear information you will get here. As soon as we provide all the assumptions and we define clearly our existing on-premises workflow, we can see the report. And so here in magic, if I use Azure, I can save 1,837,000 euros. It's quite a lot actually. It looks like I need to provide the consultant services to help people move to cloud now because it saves so much money. As well as I can decide if it's for 1 year, how much it will be saving, what is the region. So let's look if it's different for our North Europe that we use, for example. It's actually the same number. Also, we can decide if we have some different licensing programs, and also we have a specific dev test pricing if we like to include it inside. And also we have different graphs to see how the price change comparing to our on-premises actual cost and what the cost will be in Azure. So green line is Azure. And here we have the details by segment, so how much we spend on compute today, how much we spend on data center, and what we'll spend for the same services in Azure according to the information that we provided. So we have huge differences. So I see that now I spend more than 1 million and I can spend just 300,000 inside of Azure. So we have also detailed breakdown here. The information is very different. And it's why I mentioned before, it's very important that you provide as much detail as possible, because more details you provide, more realistic the data will be, because it's just an estimate related to the data that we provided in 2 previous pages. And in the end, as we have the differences of cost of on-premises comparing to Azure, we can download this report, share it with the colleagues, or save it. But for saving, we need to log in. So if I downloaded it, I will have a report provided in a PDF format with the graphs that we just saw together, and I can share it with my financial department, for example, to estimate the cost of migration. Very useful tool. I hope you enjoy it. Let's come back to our presentation. The cost management service allows you to easily track the expenses of your Azure resources. You can set up alerts for cost and create budgets to manage your resources more efficiently. You can find it within the billing and resource management sections, or as a standalone tool designed for teams managing costs across different scopes. You can also automate tasks and add cost-related features to your tools and processes. This enhances visibility and accountability for your organization's goals. Cost management works in the Azure portal, Microsoft 365 Admin Center, or Power BI. It also sends various emails and alerts to help you stay informed and manage your account and cost effectively. With the Azure Cost Management Service, there is an additional feature called Cost Analysis. This gives you a visual overview of your Azure costs. You can see your total cost in different ways, such as the billing cycles, regions, and resources. Cost analysis is helpful for studying and analyzing your organization's expenses. By looking at accumulated cost over time, you can identify trends and drivers, helping you understand your budget's impact. The more you use the cloud, the more important it becomes to maintain proper oversight. An effective organization strategy helps you comprehend your cloud usage and manage costs. One approach to arranging related resources is by placing them in separate subscriptions. Resource groups are also useful for managing interconnected resources. Resource tags offer yet another way to organize resources. These tags supply additional information or metadata about resources. It's important to note that tags are not inherited. This means you can apply tags at one level without them automatically displaying at another level. This flexibility allows for customizable tag schemes that can adapt based on the level, resource group, subscription, etc. A resource tag consists of a name and a value, and each Azure resource can be assigned one or more tags. With that, we conclude our 5th session, where we covered Microsoft Entra ID, authentication methods, security models, pricing and cost calculators, and cost management. Thank you for your attentive participation. It's time for a 10-minute break. Please return promptly and we will continue our session. Enjoy your break!